This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
They were up there late, and then y'all ended on had a 17-0 run to pull away. What did you think of the way y'all finished the game?
I thought we finished the game great. I know there was a 17-0 run, and I think it maybe ended up 19-3 to end the game. Everyone's talked to me about how hard the first game is back from Maui. I can tell you my household has it's pretty discombobulated. There's been a lot of late night movies at 2 a.m. because I thought the players would be fine, and I thought some of them were, and I thought some of them looked like they were still on Maui time. But Ricky Council is on Arkansas time, and he played with great energy. I thought Anthony Black played with great energy. I thought Makai and Mikel and Kamani, I thought those guys really, really, really played hard. Only 5 turnovers in the second half, so we took much better care of the basketball in the second half. Really happy that Nick got in the game. He was on a minutes restriction, and I think now he's going to have these days to practice, which I think will really help him between games. So and he's anxious, and we're anxious too. So a lot of positives and some areas we got to get better at too.
Seemed like Ricky really took over down the stretch. Was that kind of by design? Did you set things up specifically for him, or how did that kind of play out?
We did. We wanted to run middle pick and roll against their zone with Ricky and Anthony. And Ricky, in Maui became our go-to guy. He's really tough to stop going to the basket. And then he draws free throws attempted, and then his mid-range pull-up game he rises over people. So he's playing with a lot of confidence, and he's playing with a lot of energy, and he's playing with a lot of joy. Even my daughter doesn't really, she's not really into basketball, but she even said the other night how fun it looks like Ricky has playing the game.
Eric, as far as that deep three, and he's 0 for 3 on threes, and he said you told him, hey, take it to the rack and all that. But obviously the shot clock was run down. Just what did you think of that shot? Because I think at the time you guys were only up 1.
I hate that sidestep 3 that he takes, but I loved it on that particular shot. That's the only one he shot that I've liked since we met each other.
But he really didn't have any choice. How clutch a shot was that?
It was huge. I thought that it took spirit away from Troy. If I had to just say where was the breaking point from a spirit standpoint, because they came in with a really good game plan. They kept the ball in front of them. And that was a momentum changing shot.
And we saw your statement about Devo. Is there anything you can add to that? Do you have any idea how long he'll be gone? Is he doing okay, or just what could you add to that?
I think we're just respecting Devo's privacy, and all our thoughts are with him, and that's where it is right now.
Yeah, Eric, you got 14-9, 3 blocks from Makai tonight. Ricky was in here saying that he was driving to the arena and he just had a gut feeling that Makai was going to have a big game tonight. What do you think?
Maybe I should ask him before the next game who he's got a feeling about, and it might save me some stress. Thanks for telling me that, Scotty.
What keyed Makai's night? It seemed like the offensive glass early, and then just energy from there.
Yeah, I thought his offensive rebounding. I thought his when we run pick and roll with Kel, Kai, and Kamani, we always talk about being a dynamic roller. And I thought he rolled really hard to the rim, even on things that he didn't get the ball. I thought you mentioned the offensive rebound, Scotty, in the first half. I thought that they were coming off his rolls, and then he was just kind of hanging around the dunker spot. He plays really hard. He practices really hard. So does his brother, and that's so does Kamani. And so these guys they're producing in games. 2 weeks ago, did anybody think Kamani was going to play 32 minutes? No, not even me. But he's doing a good job. And so when you play hard, you play minutes.
Staying with that theme, Makai said that you've been really emphasizing, an increased role for the bigs. Just what have you been talking to them, and how did Makai's game kind of fit into that?
Tonight we played a little bit bigger than we have at any point during the year. Brazil was at the 3 spot tonight. Which we haven't done much. We have a little bit of our roster management. We're a little bit bigger than we have been, and so as we continue to get into SEC play, there's a possibility that there's going to be games where we have to have 2 bigs, which is why we went out and recruited, more size, because we felt maybe, and it's really hard because like Jalen Graham's he's a really good offensive basketball player, and he didn't get in the game tonight. So it's hard to kind of fit all those guys in. But I think everybody saw in the second half, I was much more willing to play big than go with some of our perimeter players, and probably gonna tilt that way a little bit more so than the other way.
Nick wasn't going to be Nick, first game back after missing all those games. But how do you anticipate kind of trying to integrate him now that he's been cleared?
Yeah, that's a great question, Christina. There's when you've coached a long time, I've been down, this situation a lot. Players on a minutes restriction, really good player. Team has played pretty well. And then there's all these dynamics that you're trying to work in. And then you also want the player to, to be healthy too. And so, I think the biggest thing that I kept thinking about is he's going to have 4 days of practice leading up to the next game. And Nick's really anxious to play, and we're really anxious to have him play. And I knew the first game, it's could be an NBA all-star. It's not an easy situation for a player. I mean, you're talking about both teams being 6-7 games in, while a player has been slowly progressing. So, and the crowd gives them somewhat of a standing ovation or whatever, because they're excited for him. It's not an easy situation for a young man to be in, but I got all the confidence in the world that through these next practices and, these next couple games, it's the schedule lines up good that we have 2 more home games coming up, and he probably could have waited, quite frankly, to put on the uniform till Saturday. But he wants to be a great teammate, and he wants to contribute. And so now game 1's out of the way, which I think is a good thing, because I kind of anticipated that, it's not easy for a player to jump in like that, especially when let's face it, we just got back from playing 3 games in 3 days for Maui. We're not going to go live between now and a Monday game. And so what he did tonight, it's really, really hard, really hard.
So do you anticipate him being on a minutes restriction for the next couple of games, kind of just increasing it gradually, or?
Great reporting. I haven't talked to the doctors. He's probably done more on the sideline in practice than he did tonight. So I haven't had that meeting.
And then Brazil, is he one of those guys you think that maybe was a side effect of just being tired from the trip, or what do you think contributed to his?
Yeah, I thought he
tonight?
struggled tonight. He's had some really great games for us, but tonight was not one of them. So hopefully he'll get himself ready to play the next game and rebound the ball at his size and play a little bit better than what we saw tonight. He's certainly capable of playing much better.
How much did you feel like Troy's style of play factored into some of the struggles there? They show pressure, the zone, and then you're playing unorthodox lineups. Just seemed like kind of an iffy combination there, but you guys figured it out for sure.
Yeah, I mean, so Curtis, I knew coming in to tonight, I don't know if anyone else in our program knew. Davonte Davis plays 9th most minutes in the SEC, according to the stat sheet that my son put in front of me early this morning. So you have someone playing the 9th most minutes in the SEC and playing more minutes than guys like Castleton and guys that are, Castleton's probably a potential All-American. We were going to have an adjustment, and then, we're adding Nick, which is, I knew if it was anybody on our roster that you try to plug in after 6 games, and it was going to be an adjustment. So those two things, we had a player that didn't play tonight. Like I said, that according to the stat sheet, whenever Michael gave it to me, was playing 9th most minutes in the SEC. So did Troy play an excellent game? No question. Thought their coaching staff did a phenomenal job, but I also knew that we were playing lineups that we haven't played all year.
Eric, when you were struggling to put them away in the second half, were you tempted to put Nick in for a boost, or did you think that really wouldn't be fair to him given the circumstances?
I thought about it probably 4 or 5 times about putting Nick back in, maybe more than 4 or 5 times. And I just thought it was completely unfair once we got past the 12-minute mark. I'm not going to do that to a player when the game was a 1-point game and he had sat for that long. I just did not think it was fair to any player. I would, if Gilbert Arenas was sitting there, I wouldn't have. You just don't do that to a player in a 1-point game when he sat that long.
In the summer, obviously everything was accelerated because you guys are playing Europe and having practices. But I know the Mitchell twins they didn't do much in Europe, and maybe you're thinking, these guys are going to be that good, and obviously they've come a long way since then. For what y'all, how good is it that they're doing what they're doing, and that you're getting some help from the bigs that you were looking for?
I think you bring up a great point, Bob. The one thing about playing here is if you practice hard, if you contribute when you're given minutes, I think they're a great example. So is Kamani. Kamani did not play in 2 games in Maui. And then when called upon, he forced, my hand or our hand where we couldn't take him out of the game. He was playing with so much energy. And so with Makai and Mikel, our culture is much different than maybe what they've been used to. And it took time. It took the whole summer, and then it took September, and it took October, and slowly but surely they're understanding expectations in practice and expectations when you check in a game. And then you add in the fact that they're really talented and they're experienced. I think for a lot of our freshmen, there's always going to be, every freshman in the country is going through some type of learning curve, whether they're playing, not. There's always a learning curve of guys in all sports as freshmen. But I think Kel and Kai they're starting to figure out what the expectations are, and they've done a great job. They really have. And, they're big bodies that are talented.
Yeah, Eric, just going back to Makai for a second. He had 9 rebounds tonight, all of them in the first half. You guys going to rib him a little bit about not getting the 10th one?
The game was too close. Normally I'll tell a guy he's close to a double. I didn't.
No, he was pretty eaten up about it.
Huh?
He was pretty eaten up about it after.
Was he? Yeah, I probably would be too.
I think he let one slip through his hands late.
It's really hard though when you got the stat sheet and I'm just crumpling it up. I wasn't looking at it. I was crumpling it up every time out of frustration.
Football is back, and BetOnline remains your #1 source for all your football betting needs this season. You'll find the latest odds, matchup info, player news, and game trends. And as your continued source for all sports wagering info, BetOnline features live betting, free contests, live scores, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports and events like MLB, MMA, tennis, boxing, and even golf. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 100% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. Bet online, where the game starts.